Hello, my Wellish besties. Welcome back. Today we have someone super special joining us. Her name is Nichole Eaton. She started her career as a licensed mental health counselor and through years of working with people realized that mental health isn't just something we manage, it's something that can guide us. Instead of seeing anxiety or depression as life sentences, Nichole sees them as information, as red flags pointing us towards what's not working. She pulled herself out of a postpartum depression using mindset, intuition, and energy work, and has written 2 books, hosts the Rock Your Comeback podcast, and has spent 16 years helping people step into how powerful they really are. So today, we're talking about how to stop fighting your symptoms and instead learning from them. Nichole, welcome to Wellish. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say.
That was such a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. I'm ecstatic to be here. This is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, it so is. So I like to start at the beginning. Like I want to start with the damage, for lack of a better word, first. Like I want to know all the way, like what made you realize that anxiety, depression, emotional heaviness weren't just problems, but that they were more of a messaging trying to communicate to you.
Yeah, okay, so this is twofold, right? There's the professional level and then there's the personal level. And I'm going to start with the personal level because I think that we can, as professionals, as a mental health counselor, you can learn so much information. And this is true for anyone who's consuming personal help books or self-help content is that there's so much information coming in. So it's not that we don't know why we are the way we are most of the time. And it's not that we don't know what's going on for us. It's the stories we come to believe about what they mean about us and what
Mhm.
they mean in terms of longevity. So if I can like take you back, I got married at 19. I had my first daughter at 20 and I went into a really serious postpartum depression. I was still in school at the time. I was going for my master's in mental health counseling. And I just hit this like depression that I was just fighting life. And I remember going to see somebody because it was just at a point where I'm like, I cannot handle this by myself. Like, I need like a medication, I need something. And so I went, and the guy was like, well, you're probably going to have depression for the rest of your life.
Great,
And that's
cool.
what he said to me. Yeah, exactly. And I'm 21, I'm a new mom. Like, there's just a lot of life circumstances happening to me. And he's like, this is who you are. And I remember just feeling so defeated of like when waves of like that depressed energy would come, I was like, "Oh, this is what I'm going to be for the next 2 months. Like this is where I'm going to live." And so on a personal level, I was like battling this depression. On this professional level, I'm learning about how to change your mindset. And then there was just this disconnect between like I get it, but like why isn't it working for me? Or
Yes.
but is the genetic component real? And so I was like in this battle with myself between my professional world and my personal world because they weren't matching up. And it got to a point where I was working with people where I could see people change. And I just began to get so curious about, okay, so like, why is this person changing with the same information and this person isn't? And I'm still struggling over here with this. And so I think I just became the great observer of people and what makes them tick and what makes them change, like what brings somebody on the precipice of actually changing their life. Is it the information we need to know? Is it the way they're living? And so I think I got really curious about what was the actual symptom trying to tell us. I think the reason I stepped away from traditional mental health counseling is because they wanted me to or my gosh, the word is gone. But they wanted me to diagnose everybody.
Hmm.
And in order to have your diagnoses covered and your therapy covered by insurance, you have to provide a diagnosis. So sometimes I would have to dig a little deep and be like, well, I guess this person can kind of fit into this diagnosis just so I can get that covered. But now they've got a label and they believe that
Hmm.
about true.
Hmm.
And our identity, God, our identity is so important. Like who we think we are and what we believe we have and what limitations we believe come from that,
Hmm. It
that
shapes
can make or
everything you do. Hmm.
100%. Like that is what makes or breaks us. So there was just a point in my profession where I was like, this can't be it. Like this isn't going to be my story. Like I'm not willing to say that What is the difference between the times I feel better and the times I don't? And so when I wrote Rock Your Comeback, I wrote a lot about our red flags and anxiety and depression as like our personal check engine lights. These are the things that go off inside us when something isn't quite right. And at the time for me, what wasn't right was that I was a new mom. I had no help. I had no support. My parents had just gotten divorced. They had moved to different sides of the US. So there was a lot going on, and there was a lot of conditions outside of myself that weren't working for me. And that if I would have had support, or if I would have known about how the power of the mind really works, that I could have done something different. So I started to begin to just that process of just deciding it wasn't going to be my story. And I wasn't sure exactly what that meant, but I decided that it wasn't going to be my story. And my reality is that I grew up in a household with a mom who was a stay-at-home mom. And the belief was that your kids are your life. And so I had subconsciously adopted the belief that like when you become a mom, you cease to be a person. And so it was this inner battle. Like that was my check engine light, is that like, hey, I don't have to just live solely for my kids. Like, yes, I can be a fantastic mom and take good care of them, but I don't have to that doesn't have to be my life. But that was a belief that I had for a very long time that I didn't even realize I had until I did some digging. So a lot of times we develop beliefs that are causing our depression or anxiety or contributing to them. And they're coming up and we're like, oh, now I am somebody who is anxious, or I am somebody who has depression, instead of like, oh, wait, what is this trying to tell me about what I need to change in my life? And that's what I love about not letting it become an identity, but just being curious about what it's trying to tell you.
100%. I like that you say that it's such a learned belief, like specifically about the being a mom, and that you can be a good mom even though it doesn't make it your whole life. Because I just think and I think this kind of correlates to the ideas with anxiety and depression and whatever other red flags are kind of coming up with us as well, is that it's such a thing that when you say it out loud, it's like almost shamed societally, like that, oh, you're saying you can't make your kids your whole life. What do you mean? They have to be your number one priority. And I think that translates to, other things that go on inside of our mind as well, that we build this narrative that it just isn't something that we can fix. It's who we are, or we're bad people for wanting to do something different. So it really works against you in that way as well. You got multiple things piling up.
Yeah, well, and what we believe about how things work. I go live on an online membership. I have the Comeback Club, which is my online membership space, and I went live this morning, and I was talking about our belief in how long something takes, or how arduous it has to be, impacts our experience with it. Like the belief that we have blocks creates blocks, right? And so I was giving the example of certain cultures celebrate grief. They celebrate when somebody passes away. It's a big rite of passage, and it deserves to be celebrated. And so the grief process in America is a lot different than the grief process in certain countries. And so there is a cultural expectation. There is a societal expectation of how long something should take you. And then a lot of times, most people who are grieving find that there is a point where people expect you to be over it.
Yeah, totally.
Right? There's just all of these mixed messages about how long something should take, or if you're happy and smiling the day of somebody's funeral, oh, they must not have cared. We have stupid, crazy beliefs about everything, and until we stop and just look at them and just see what they have to tell us, we just live them unconsciously. So part of the process is really looking at, and this is something I love to do with people, is really looking at what do you even believe about success? What do you believe about getting healthy? What do you believe about how long it's going to actually take you? Do you believe it's going to take you years? Do you believe it's going to take months? Do you believe it's going to be a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice? Or do you believe it can kind of happen in overnight? Our beliefs about how things work also matter, and are also preventing us from feeling better in our lives.
Completely. What do you think that people misunderstand about the red flags and what they're actually trying to tell us? I'm curious as to what they look like, really. What do you think goes unrecognized? And then what are we misunderstanding when they come up?
I think most things are not pathologies, right? So as somebody who's worked in mental health, in traditional mental health and with insurance and stuff, I think that most things are life situations, not all things. Okay. I want to be really clear about that. There are definitely things that some people have brains that work a lot different than mine or yours, and mine might work different than yours. But on a general scale, our ADHD is a big like one. People are like, oh, I can't focus to save my life, or anxiety is a big one, or depression's a big one. But a lot of times these sensations are coming up in our body, and it might come up as worry, or it might come up as sadness, or just feeling heavy. And instead of like just stopping and putting your hand over your heart and tuning into like, I'm wondering where this is coming from. Well, for me, the depression was coming from like just not having a life outside of working, coming home, making dinner, bathing my kid, playing with my kid, going to sleep, starting over the next day. And so what I needed to do was something a little bit different to find way to make that fun, to find way to make that interesting. Anxiety and the symptoms of anxiety, that fast heartbeat or the constant like mind gymnastics and mental gymnastics, like all of that stuff is coming up for a reason. So when we can tune back into our body, because what our brain likes to do is it likes to make meaning, which is its purpose, right? It's so good at that. So if it's making meaning out of something, we can ask what meaning we're making out of it. So we can be like, oh, I'm always an anxious person and I always spiral and things always go wrong. It's the stories we tell ourselves about what the feelings and the physiological sensations actually mean that are messing us up.
Completely.
It's not a handcuffs. You know what I mean? Like if this is happening to me and I have no role in it, my
Victim
hands are tied.
mentality.
This is a victim mentality. And it's so easy to go there when you are experiencing a panic attack. Like, I'm not going to like bullshit you. Our brain is going to make that feeling feel as though it's happening right now. That is like our brain has no idea what's real, what's imagined. So it's going to make it feel like it's all happening right now. If you reflect on a past situation that was really, really hard, when you pull up those memories and those feelings, our physiological body is going to be like, this is happening right now. I need to be sad about it. I need to be panicked about it. So our brain doesn't know what is real and what's perceived, which is why we can get so messy inside of our heads, because especially if we're focused on the past and we have issues with depression or issues with just sadness in general, like we're going to be experiencing that all the time, but we're replicating it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. It makes me think of, so I relate to this very much. Like I used to fully identify as a person that had anxiety, and I almost used it as an excuse to get through life, because it was like, especially when people like put the labels on you, like you were describing earlier, that it feels good because it feels like an explanation for your crazy. Like it makes it feel like, oh, okay, I'm normal. I'm not the only one that experiences this. And then obviously we see like a bunch of stuff online or in the media that makes us feel so validated. So we can rely on that in a sense. But it was, I swear to God, there was one day that I said, I will no longer identify as a person that has anxiety. And it changed the whole thing. Sure, it's an emotion that I still experience, but that identity and anchoring into something different really changes how you live your life.
Yeah, and also the belief, right, is like I'm not immune to a bad day. Like I've been doing this work for 16 years. Like I still have days where that knock me on my ass and something hard has happened. I don't believe that you are immune to bad days when you figure out how to use your mind, right? I believe it is the rebound time, right? I used to be like, okay, a bad day, I'm slipping into a depression and that's going to last me 2 months at least. And now it's like, okay, what am I going to do tonight to nurture how I'm feeling so that I wake up tomorrow refreshed, reset, and ready for a brand new day? And so it's not that these experiences of anxiety or experiences of sadness or whatever it is that's coming up for you, it's how am I going to deal with it and how am I going to handle it to make sure that tomorrow is different, or even if I can't get behind tomorrow, I'm just going through some stuff, that I can just drop into the present moment and take really, really good care of myself today to lighten the load for tomorrow.
Completely. I just talked about that on Monday's episode about building the skill of shortening that gap of time instead of focusing on never falling off. Because I think of that when it comes to like, especially with mental stuff, because you can do the same thing with physical, like going to the gym or any of those things as well. But when it comes to your mental, growth isn't linear. And we get so frustrated when all of a sudden we feel like we're backtracking and I wasn't dealing with this anymore. And I thought I overcame these feelings. And it's really that period of time. If you can shorten that and set yourself up for success by being so aware of it and saying like, I love me enough to make sure that I'm going to ground myself and have a good rest of my night, even though I had a bad day today, so that I can wake up and start again tomorrow and try again.
Yes. Well, and like my frustration is that we take the physical body very seriously in regards to like, I know if I want to build biceps, I've got to lift my biceps more than once. And I think a lot of people come in to deal with and address their mental health, and
Yes.
then they've got one bicep curl, and then they're like, this shit doesn't work.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, but you haven't reset your baseline. You haven't revisited this more than once. And so I would encourage anybody listening who maybe has started and stopped to find something, just one small thing that they can do every single day. Because I promise you, I was reading a journal from like 2012 the other day, and I was like, wow, I don't recognize her. I
I love
don't
that.
think like that anymore. That is like I can't even like remember feeling like that
Yeah.
uh, because I've done so much work on like how I function in the world, and how I access my power, and how I believe in myself, and how confident I am. And so you can build these skills, but they are skills that you have to build. Like you're not going to go be a pro basketball player if you shoot like one basketball hoop once a day. Like you have to put in a little bit of work to get going. And you can always like plateau a little and return to it, but at least you're at a higher baseline if you put in the work. Your mental health matters in it, and it's impacting how you experience your day and how people experience you. And it is going to, I was just telling Sarah, I'm working on a book called, it's like designing your energetic signature, right? And so when you're working on your mental health, like people feel if you're insecure, whether you need to or not, whether you put on a smile and stand up tall, like people can feel the energy of you when you're feeling a certain way about yourself. And so I believe that that opens doors, opportunities, that creates if you're magnetic or not. And so if people are kind of experiencing you at all times, then working on this piece not only matters for how you function through the day, how you parent, how you have your relationships, but also like what's on the other side of that, all of the external things of opportunities and experiences and career and all of the things that really, really matter can come in a little bit easier when those walls drop.
Yeah, totally. So I'm curious then, like if we're focusing on the bad feelings that we have or the negative feelings that we have as more of your check engine lights, I like how you described it that way. If you're focusing that way and you're using them to notice yourself, get to know yourself better, to benefit you, how do you tell the difference between when you need to pay more attention to you and when something is actually out of alignment and shouldn't be in your life?
I think we always kind of know when something shouldn't be in our lives, but the more we tune into ourselves, the more we disconnect from everybody else's energy and wants and desires of us. I'm always saying if you're like polling people, if every time you make a choice, you've got to ask 10 people and then do like an Instagram story, like you have to be willing to trust yourself. And that's one of the things I love to work on with people is like, how do we actually develop trust within yourself, and how do we create you as somebody who you can rely on, because that's the most important thing. So when something is out of alignment, actually, can I walk you through one of my
Please.
favorite exercises? Okay. When something is out of alignment, we're going to feel it, but we're not just going to feel it on like an anxiety and maybe depression level, but we're going to feel it really physically. Okay. So I want you to think of something that you just like love. Like absolutely no, like it could be your kids, your dog, your spouse, your house, your space you're in right now. And I just want you to like close your eyes for a second. And I just want you to like say to yourself over and over, and maybe you can picture it in your mind of how much you just love that thing that you love.
Okay.
And Sarah, like what are you feeling in your body when we talk about loving that thing?
Relaxation for sure.
It feels good, right? Like I even
Mm-hmm.
notice like, my heart almost feels open, or
Yeah.
like my belly is usually a little like tight or whatever, and that feels like relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm gonna do you a little dirty, and I promise I'll reverse it, but I want you to just in your head say that you hate that thing over and over again. That same thing you just said you loved, I want you to say that you hate it. And I want you to pay really close attention to your body when you're saying that. Do you notice anything going on in your body?
I feel like tingly and I feel like constricted and I feel more like this like more of like a resistance, I would say. Like
Yeah.
things like almost like a shaming myself kind of a vibe.
It feels wrong, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You can go back, you can go back to saying that you love that thing and just cancel out that feeling for a second. But
Okay.
and you can open your eyes. But this is a really great way to like just pay attention to how your body's speaking to you, right?
Yeah.
We can tune back in at any time. Like our body does not shut up about our life. We just ignore it. And this is how people end up in relationships that physically make them sick, right? Is that we've stopped listening to like the mental and emotional cues that it's saying, hey, this is giving you anxiety every time you encounter it. And then it starts storing in the body. And then you start to have stomach issues or constant headaches, or you just have all of this physicality associated with your life. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always say like people will fight me on this, and this is maybe my most controversial take, but I think a lot of autoimmune system issues and autoimmune disorders are associated with either a toxic lifestyle or having toxic things in your life or self-abandonment.
I believe
So,
you.
yeah, I just feel like that's like most of the time when people can correct that. Actually, do you watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
I just started it. I keep trying to get
Oh,
into it.
okay.
I know. But I know a little bit.
So there's a girl on there named Michaela, and
Yep.
she had all these like crazy skin things and autoimmune things. And as she started processing her trauma with past sexual abuse, they started to go away.
Shut up. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now I'm
So like
excited to get
by
to that part.
season three, she looks like her skin is more clear. She looks more like alive and
Well, that's the
vibrant. But
glow up that everybody always talks about.
that's what it looks like when you get rid of the heaviness in your body and you step back into alignment with who you are. You speak your truth. Like when we suppress our truth, like nothing does more damage to our body and our minds than like stuffing that stuff down. So I think that's why, I love being a therapist, because I believe that even if you get it out of your body, we can do something with it. But when we store that energy and we hold that energy in our body, it just, who knows what it's going to do. But I think a lot of physicality and a lot of disease and a lot of things that are going on in our body can be attributed to how we handle our heart, how we take care of our emotions, and the ways that it's stored. So, yeah, that's my hot take. A lot of people are like, that's.
Why do you think it's a hot take? Like, why is that a controversial thing? What do people think otherwise? Because, like, to me, that just
Because
makes sense.
it does, well, because you're self-aware and because you
Sure.
understand mental health and energy, right? But for somebody who doesn't, like, we want to cling to our symptoms that it's not our personal
Mm,
responsibility, kind, right? And
sure.
so me saying that means like it's your fault you're sick. I wouldn't say that. I would say it's your responsibility to find well,
Love
you
that.
know?
Okay. Yeah, completely. It makes me wonder, like, so I'm picturing when we're in those experiences, like when we're in the thick of it, that our body is responding in the way that you're explaining. I think a lot of the time what we do is we obviously ignore our intuition and we say like, I'm just going to push through and muscle through and make excuses for things and, like come up with reasons for why things are the way that they are. So I'm curious, like, is it just like what do we do about that? Like, how do we become more in tune with ourselves so that we can, like we were talking about earlier, shorten that gap of time between realizing that our bodies aren't where they're supposed to be, we're not where we're supposed to be, and fixing it, for lack of better word?
That's a great question. And I think that most people are not in their body, they're in their
Mm.
head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if I'm saying to you, like, hey, we can do a lot by just tuning back into our body and bringing our attention back in. I'm a firm believer you're either reacting or responding to your reality, or you're creating it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, there's no middle line. You're either
Mm-hmm.
reacting and responding to all the stuff that's popping into your world and you're playing victim to it, or you're deciding how things get to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when we take that intentional time, and as a mom, I'm going to tell you that I have more time now than I did when my kids were 5 and under. My kids are 17 and 14. So yesterday morning, I just had like the whole morning to myself. My oldest daughter was at a sleepover. My youngest daughter was at softball. And I'm just like, oh, I have time. But if you are somebody who is busy or a caretaker of any kind, or you have several jobs because you're trying to get ahead or whatever it is, you may not think you have any time to do the work we're talking about. So I do want to acknowledge that there's seasons where you'll have more time to do this. But I wish somebody would have told me when my kids were under a year or under 3, like, hey, even if you've got to take 10 minutes and ask for 10 minutes to yourself, go in a room, don't get on your phone, put your hand over your heart, and start the process of tuning back in. Because when we start to pay attention to our inner world and our inner energy, that's where the signals are coming from, right? That's where our intuition is speaking to us. But if we give it no time of day, we're more likely to become our circumstances, and we're more likely to become everything we're around. When we can give it time of day, we strengthen it. So it's like the bicep curl we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The more I just pay attention and tune into, like, what do I think and feel about this? And I think the big key is, like, we can do this, and we can't judge it.
Yeah.
We just can't. We have to be willing to do this. And there's so many different ways that you can tune back in, right? If you're somebody who's very somatic and very in their body, you can put your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and just be like, what do I need today? That's a really great start.
Mm-hmm.
If you're somebody who likes to write, I'm a big writer.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I like to do this twofold, right? So I'll give you both things. I love morning pages if you've done the Artist's
Yes.
Way.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Great.
It's a really great way to get that energy that's inside of you out in a non-judgmental way. We're just going to clear the gutters. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a really great thing to start to just pay attention to, like, what is even going on up here? Like, what
Yeah.
is even,
And the three
because a lot of
pages
times,
is huge because it's like you get out more than you thought you were going to.
yes, and if you commit to writing, then you start to tap into your intuition. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
automatic writing. If you just keep going and you're like, huh, well, I emptied out and now I don't know what else to say, that's where your intuition can drop in. So that's a great place for intuition to drop in. And then I love manifestation writing to, like, empty out and fill back in. Or even just, like, visualizing for yourself, like, what do I want today to look like? How am I going to see myself walking through today and feeling really confident through the day? How am I going to see this meeting that I've been worried about for the last week? I want to see it go well. How do I want to hold myself in that meeting? I have a really big speaking opportunity coming up, and there's part of me that's like, who the fuck am I, right?
Yeah.
Who am I to do this? And then there's part of me that's like, you were literally built to do this. This is what you're really good at. And you just get to do it in front of this different type of person, and that's okay. And so I'll envision myself successfully on that stage anytime that comes up where I'm worried about it. So when it comes to, like, how do we change our life and start listening to our intuition again, there's several different pathways. There's no right way. And this is a good start to saying, what do I feel pulled towards? That's how we start to use our intuition. Is like, what of these things that I'm talking about or that Sarah's talking about feels like, I'm really curious about that, and I would love to give it a try. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the time commitment is really big, because I think a lot of people feel like a morning routine has to take hours and you have to wake up at 4 a.m. I will not. I will not
I
wake
will
up. I
not.
won't
No.
wake up at 5 a.m. Um,
100%.
that's not for me. That's not my
Mm-mm.
journey. But it is like, you have to tune into, like, what makes sense for you. How are you built? How's your body built? My body, like, I do like a morning, but I like it on my own terms, right? So you have to be willing to explore yourself and learn about how you work best without judging it. And without comparing it to, like, well, all these other people wake up at 5 a.m. and even though these ladies have, have 4 kids, they're still doing this, but you also don't know if they have a house cleaner and a nanny and you don't. Like, there's just so much you don't know about everybody else's journey that the only thing you can do is tune back into yours. And that's going to give you all the information that you need to get going. Like anytime you're intentionally tuning back in, and I love a good question because your brain will answer anything you give it, which is why
Yeah.
we don't want to ask questions like, why me? Or why does this always happen? You want to be like, okay, so what's the solution? Your brain will answer any question that you ask
Instantly.
it. So
Yeah.
start asking. I have an entire chapter in Rock Your Comeback about asking better questions because our brains are so smart and dumb at the same time, right? They're so like basic and well equipped at the same time that if we ask better questions, I call them what affirmations. Like, what if it gets to get really good? What if this is the best month you've ever had? What if today goes better than you actually anticipate? Your brain's going to start to look for proof because that's really its only job. So you just have
100%.
to direct it.
Yeah. I like that because like when we were talking about the pressure and like the what we put on ourselves to push through, when you're in those less than ideal situations, I can picture when I've been in them in the past, if I took a moment to step into a room for 10 minutes, put my hand on my heart, ask myself the right questions, that I could picture immediately not getting the answers that I want. And I could picture being really afraid of those answers. And I like that you also mentioned, what can I do today to make myself feel good? Because even if you're in one of those situations that you've built a life that's based on toxicity and things that aren't in alignment with you, it's a process to move through those and to get back to like something that is more in alignment with you. And it's not something that's, going to happen overnight. And I think that's where like not judging yourself becomes so important, because it feels that, you can't be afraid to take accountability for like how you've gotten yourself in this situation, or judging yourself for what it is, or needing to like jump into an immediate change right now just because you've come to the realization that something needs to be different.
Well, and like let's go back to what you initially said is I can envision myself in the darkest times going into a room and just not getting the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people will say to me like, I don't think my intuition works like yours. And I'm like, I don't believe that. When we're heavy and when we're logical, we're not accessing that part of our brain that gives us the answers, right? And also we don't get to decide the timing of the answers coming through
Mm-hmm.
either. And
Mm-hmm.
so one thing I'll say is like, if I'm saying to you, like, ask for a solution, invite a solution in, it doesn't mean it's coming right that second. And when we start to drop into our logic and look for it and look for our logic only knows what we know. And
Mm-hmm.
so outside solutions of how this is going to get resolved or how it's going to get like pathways that are going to come in for it are probably not in your experience yet. So when you're trying to figure out how it's going to change, we can stunt ourselves and then we're only looking at what we already see. But when we can just suspend that disbelief for a moment and just say, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm open and willing to see what might occur. That's like open and willingness are my favorite words. You're going to hear me say them a million times over in all of my content, everything I do, because I don't need you to believe it wholeheartedly. I just need your willingness.
Mm-hmm.
I just need you to be a little bit open and curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
When we are trying to extend a belief so far past ourselves, that's when we disconnect from it. But when we can just be open and willing to like, I don't know how life is going to get better, but I'm open and willing to see what the universe has for me, or I'm open and willing to see what my higher self is guiding me towards, or I'm open and willing to listen to my intuition this week. I'm just going to see what it has to say. Those openness and that invitation, I think that's like a true game changer.
Yeah, I think, and I heard you mention this briefly, that the open and willingness to and calling upon your intuition to help answer your questions really comes back to self-trust too. Because I think that, when you have that intuitive thought and you can kind of bully it away because you don't like what the answer is, because it makes
Yeah.
it so that you have to change your life in some way that's scary, like, leaving a job or breaking up with the person or whatever, that it's just, I think that really adds a lot of extra pressure to it. So I guess I'm just kind of curious about like how paying attention to the red flags that are inside of us help build your self-trust compared to eroding it.
I think anytime we're willing to tune back in non-judgmentally, that we give ourselves more compassion. Like I think sometimes people try to change their life by battling themselves. You
Hmm.
know, it's like something's really wrong with me and I've got to get rid of it. And I think that when we start to get curious about it, it approaches it with a different energy, right? As if I'm just curious about like, okay, I'm having a lot of sadness. Like, is there anything going on in my life that would be contributing to that? And is there anything within my power to make that different? And in my case, it was like, I don't have enough time to myself,
Hmm.
right? That was like my big things. I just didn't have any time to myself. I was working, school, and taking care of people and doing it all again the next day. And so I needed like a hobby. I needed friends. I needed to be intentional with my time. And so I think a lot of times people know the answer. I'm just a firm believer. Like you probably know what to do.
Me too. Hmm.
Um, you're just scared. And I think
Yeah.
that just even in saying that, like, because I can deal with fear, I can't do anything about not knowing. Not knowing is still victimhood to some extent,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That willingness to deal with fear. But one of the things that I love to teach people, and this is like one of my favorite little tools in my toolbox, is that um, when you're building self trust, right? If I'm starting to tune in and listen, I'm going to get a lot of information. And so building that self trust also looks like being the person who says they're going to do something and then doing it. And
Hmm.
that might be for me, but it also might be for others. I always think of I had this little girl who was always at my house, always, always at my house. My kids were like really little. She was maybe in second or third grade, and she said to me, my mom probably won't do that. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, she's like, no, my mom won't do that because she never does anything she says she's going to do.
Wow.
And I know. And I like from that moment, I was like, any promise you make to your kids, you have to follow through. Like anything, because when they're little, you're just like, yeah, sure, someday. Like we'll do that at some point, you know.
Totally.
They're constantly asking, but I just remember that, and it's just like you wouldn't call up your friend who is super unreliable if every time you called them they bailed on you.
Hmm.
So it's the same, right? It's the same. And if you aren't at the place where you can do it for yourself, which I would like for you to try or be curious about it, I would love for you to at least do that for your kids or for a higher cause, a volunteer opportunity. When you make a promise, and I would love for it to be small because our brain thrives. Like, I think one of the biggest errors in the self help world and even in the manifestation world is that we've created these big goals and these big dreams, but it's the micro moments where things actually change. So
Hmm.
when we can go back to the micro moments of like, hey, I promised myself I would drink more of these and less of these, like, more water and less coffee, like that to me is okay, I'm gonna at least have three of these awalas before I have another cup of coffee because like that's the thing right now, right? So it's I'm going to make a small, manageable promise to myself, and then I'm going to make sure with everything in me that just that one thing today, if I don't do anything else, I do that one thing. That to me is manageable. And I think sometimes when people are trying to change their life, they try to overhaul. And
Hmm.
you're not going to, you need proof that you are somebody who follows through before you can start stacking, right? Sometimes even like once you are somebody, like stacking still doesn't work. So when we can make those micro shifts and be like, hey, I said I was going to drink a whole glass of water this morning before I had any coffee. I'm going to drink that whole glass. And that is going to be my only thing I worry about in terms of my personal growth today. And that's totally fine. We can stack those things when we start to feel successful and when we start to feel like, hey, I make a promise and I keep it.
Hmm. I think that it gets so lost too because it is so minimal. Like, because it is the tiny micro moments in life that we can just be like, it doesn't matter. Oh, I'll try to drink the water again tomorrow, or I'll try to do whatever tomorrow. But like, it builds up, it compiles over time, and it works against you because what you know about you as a whole is you never do what you say that you were going to do. You are always left wishing that you are creating something new for yourself. You're always wishing you were more hydrated, or you went to the gym, or you were a more confident person that didn't show up socially awkward when they go to situations, instead of actually following through with what you said you were going to do and try to do the micro thing of making eye contact with somebody while you were there. And I think that's just such a good point.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to what we were originally talking about, right? Your identity and who you believe yourself
Yeah.
to be. Like,
Yeah.
we were talking about it on a negative level, right? We were talking about like identifying with anxiety or depression, but we're also talking on like I am somebody who's consistent. I used to believe that I was type B, so I just wasn't naturally consistent. Like what bullshit, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
had to get down to that place of being so fucking sick of myself, of
Yeah.
just sliding backwards every time I made progress, that I started to say, okay, so the identity that I want to have is somebody who's consistent. And although I don't believe myself to be a totally consistent person, because I am kind of floaty and airy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm open and willing to believe that I can be a little bit more consistent every day.
Okay.
And that's doable, right? So
Yeah.
I'm starting to build a new identity by telling myself a story I'm willing to believe and then following through because I am doing the action I told myself I would do.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's
And
in a tiny, tiny way, like drinking water that day.
it's small, but I'm proving to myself that my identity is actually shifting and I'm becoming the person I want to be. And I'm telling myself the story simultaneously like, hey, I'm open and willing to be a little bit more consistent every day. I'm open and willing to be a little bit more confident every day. I'm going to do the things that help make me feel confident. So maybe if you're socially awkward, right? Then going into a networking event or meeting and just putting yourself out of your comfort zone and saying, I'm just going to make eye contact with four people. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm good to go if I want to go.
Yeah.
It's giving yourself permission to follow through and then permission to have the out. And I think that's like a lot of people will not talk about that, but the human brain works well with that. And maybe next time it will be four in a conversation. I don't know, but like we'll make those small promises because we're becoming a person that we're really freaking excited to be. And I think that nothing beats that.
Yeah, completely. And I think that becoming that person, loving yourself enough to become that person and honor that person is worth a little bit of discomfort.
Yes. And
Hmm.
self trust leads to self love.
Yeah,
A lot of people are
completely.
like, how do I feel love for myself if I've hated myself my whole life? Like making those, like showing yourself that you're somebody you care about by doing the things you say you're going to do. That is the perfect gateway drug.
Right. It's no different than any other relationship that you would be building out in life with your kids, your parents, your significant other, your friends. You got to do the same thing with you.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
You have to take, like, nobody's going to take good care of you except for you. So it's
right.
up to you.
So I'm wondering, like, if somebody, because I can picture, like, when you want to set out to build self trust and commit to these goals, I could picture somebody being more rigid, like being hard on themselves and using it as an excuse to beat themselves up if they don't accomplish the goal that they said that they were going to. And I also think that we do this thing sometimes that we almost take a truth and we twist it, like saying, I'm not a machine, or I deserve to just do whatever I want. I deserve to live based off my feelings. And we find ourselves no longer behaving based off of our long-term goal, but instead acting off of our short-term, temporary, in the moment, instant gratification feeling. So what would you say to a person that struggles with that?
So, as a flowing feeling person, like I identify with exactly what you're saying of like,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to running a business, I've always just wanted to fucking do it my way. But there is that balance you have to have between, okay, is your way getting you exactly where you want to go? And if not, what are some things that intuitively feel aligned that you can add to how you're doing things that maybe have a structured approach that brings success or that people connect with. So I would say like if you're on that loose end of the spectrum of I just want to see what the day takes me, you absolutely can. If you have goals and seeing where the day takes you isn't getting you there, then you have to look at it a little differently. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to be willing to say, okay, here's one. So like for me, I've written two books. I'm writing three and four simultaneously, but I have 20 minutes a day where I write only like 20 minutes a day where I write. I can say I want to be an author, but if I don't pencil that in, then I'm never going to become an author, right? So penciling in 20, because I got 20 minutes to write. Like, how silly is that? Like, 20 minutes is nothing, but
Yeah, it
20
really
minutes
seems
every
very
day,
doable.
I'll probably be done by March at the latest, right? So when you have like that loose energy, you have to have some structure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you can make it your own structure, right? I like to do it in the morning before, like if I get in my work day, I'm not writing. It's not going to happen. It has to happen before. So I have to be intentional about carving that out. Now, for the person who's saying, like, I'm really rigid and I messed up today, I want you to think about this. Like, let's say you dropped your phone on the floor. Are you going to stomp on it too?
Hmm. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Right? Like we wouldn't drop our phone on the floor and then just go buy it every day and stomp on it. We would brush it off. Like who cares? That creating a battle against yourself will never get you towards your goal. I don't care who you are. I mean, maybe David Goggins or like I don't know. You know what I mean? But like creating a battle within yourself is never going to get you where you want to go. Having compassion and locking the fuck back in, that will get
Yeah.
you where you want to go. So I think it's just again knowing yourself and your personality, knowing the times of day that where you shine and the things you are and aren't going to do at those times of day. And then again, making it small and manageable. And if you miss a day, you brush it off and you say, okay, how am I going to ensure I start again tomorrow? Like there's massive momentum with detachment.
Mm.
Just I don't need to be hard on myself. I just need to get back up and do it again. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to like beat myself up about it. I just need to decide tomorrow is going to be better. And again, I don't need to have depression for 3 months. I need to figure out what I need to do tonight to set myself up for success. And that's why tuning back into yourself is maybe the most important thing you could ever do. Because if you
Yeah.
don't take that time to tune back in, then you're battling an external figure and you never do anything different for tomorrow to make it different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that it's the storyline, like that if you're constantly stopping and restarting, you have this storyline that you are somebody that's lazy, somebody that falls off, somebody that can't stay consistent, compared to like using your author example. Like if you are somebody that, writes, let's say you write every day for 20 minutes for 3 weeks and then you fall off of it. Let's say you even fall off for a week of it, but you don't start the book over again. You don't say, oh, I gotta like go all the way back to the beginning and start all the way over. You say, okay, I'm still an author. Like I'm still continuing this storyline. I just have to pick up where I left off and continue on my way because I am the kind of person that does this.
Yes. It's that storytelling of like what things mean. If I have anxiety, am I making it mean I'm like that's permanently me? If I fall off, does that mean it's permanently me? Like we can get so much done quicker if we just say, okay, what am I going to do here? Like action is something that I'm a pretty like feminine energy person, but action is something that like at some point you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you can't just wish to be better. You have to actually do something different. You can't just hope that it's going to change. You have to actually do something different. So, I think that the power is always yours. The power is always inside of you, and you don't need a new year. You don't need the beginning of a month. You don't need a Monday to
Mm-hmm.
do something different. On a Thursday at 3:52 p.m., you can say, "Hey, I'm going to start my fucking life over," and then you
Mm-hmm.
can do it.
100%. I'd like to think of that as like in regards to like eating healthy, that like if you eat like shit for breakfast and lunch, you can have a good dinner and you can start there and it's fine and try again. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. I like that. So for someone that's starting to notice the red flags, like what can they do to like start tuning in and paying more attention? What are we looking for? Like, and what do we do once we start to notice them? How do we, like, what's the next step?
Yeah. I think okay, so the first thing is when you start to notice those physical sensations, tuning into your body and just like sitting with those. I know that sounds really silly, but just like your inclination is to either spiral with them or to make meaning out of them, right? So if we sit with them, then we're not battling them and we're not deciding they mean something, we're just experiencing them. And when you drop into the present moment, you have every opportunity to do something different. If you are out here in the anxiety spiral, you're not doing something different. There's a really great book called The Power of Now, and he talks about the
Hmm.
anxiety gap. Like when you're physically in the moment and you drop into your body, there's are you reading that right now?
No,
I've
it's
read
just next to me. I've already read it.
oh my God, I've read it like 4 times. It's just something that I
It's
always
so
return to
good.
remind myself of like, hey, your power is here. Your head, if you can put your head where your feet are, it's the
Hmm.
most powerful place to be in. So when you notice those feelings come up, instead of seeing what the thoughts are, and trying to like make sense of them, just dropping back into your body, put your hand over your heart. That's like a really good physical anchor. A
Hmm.
lot of my clients really love just putting their hand over their heart because when you tune back in and just see, okay, what do I need? You're disrupting the pattern, right? You're dropping back into your body, you're getting out of the meaning making of your brain, and you're back in control. Because like, okay, maybe I just need to go for a walk.
Hmm.
Maybe I need to watch a trashy reality TV show.
Hmm.
I people like people will say stuff about that all day, but like at the end of the day, if that's a good disruptor for one episode, go do it. If it neutralizes the anxiety spiral you're in, go do it. Like there's
Yes.
nothing wrong with anything that creates neutrality. Like when you are in any kind of spiral, anywhere you can find neutrality, that is where you can rebuild your momentum in a different direction. But neutrality is not bad. It's like that for me is like factory settings, right? And sometimes I'll just even say, like, I don't really know why this is happening, or I don't even really know why I'm feeling this way, but I accept that I am. And that also releases a lot of energy because I'm acknowledging it and I'm surrendering to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do a lot in terms of, coping skills, right? And you have to tune in to find your personal coping skills, but dropping back into your body, disconnecting from the story, and just seeing what it has to tell you. Just opening up to say, I don't know. And you can sit down and write, or you can go watch Members Only Palm Beach. I don't know if anybody's into that, but like, just something that will neutralize your mind so that you can start fresh and new in a different time.
I like the way you describe it too, because it doesn't sound like a perfection project. Like, I think that a lot of self-improvement talks about this in a way that, like, okay, like, right, like, sit down and journal, go meditate, do a yoga practice, drink the green smoothie, and you'll be great. And like, I think that, what you're describing is just so realistic. Like, it's just so like you're allowed to go binge, or maybe not binge watch it to the intensity, but you can go, I mean, fuck it. If that's what you need to do that night because you're fully spiraling about something and you need to sit there all night and watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, then that is what it is. So I think that it just makes it so much more achievable and doable, and it brings it into our reality compared to this like glorified image reality of what wellness and having like a good mental space looks like.
Yeah, I believe that like healing can happen quick. And I believe it can be fun and interesting, and I don't feel like it has to be this arduous. I was saying earlier on my live pep talk I do weekly on the Comeback Club. I was saying, like you can believe that it has to take years to heal or to change your life. I believe it can literally pop in overnight and people just decide that something's going to be different and it shifts and it's good. So I think it really depends on what your belief is about what the process looks like and what it means and how long it has to be and who has to be involved. Like, look at that first, because I feel like it can be fun. Like, let's have fun changing your life. It's fun becoming who you're meant to be. It's so fun.
Totally. I'm curious, like, just for sake of humanity, do you have any that you still work through? And if you do, can you paint a picture about how you respond when they come up?
When like anxieties and stuff come up.
Yeah, like if you have any of those engine signals that are still coming up for you. Because I
Oh
assume you
yeah,
still have them.
oh, of course. Like, here's the thing is like you just get better at them. You don't eliminate them. And maybe that's a belief I need to work on, right? Is like maybe we can't eliminate them. But I find that every time I go to a new level in my business, I was asked to speak at a Fortune 500 company, and so they sent all this insane paperwork. I'm filling out like supplier data stuff that I'm like I've never seen before in my entire life, and so part of me is like, you don't know what you're doing, right? You don't know how to deal with a Fortune 500 company. But then part of me is like, well, they're paying you a ridiculous amount of money and they just emailed you to ask you if you'd come in based on your contents or your podcast. So like there's part of me that's like still battling that, right? Of like, I start to like, get nervous when I'm filling out contracts and I'm like, am I like doing myself justice on this contract? I don't know anything about contracts. It's that internal battle between what I know to be true and what I'm afraid of. Every time I reach a new level, there's fears that come up like, who am I to do this? And then I remind myself very quickly, like, who else is going to do it? Like, this is what I've been working on for almost 20 years. There's nobody better qualified for this specific topic than me. And so I do a lot of self-talk. I also am very socially anxious just in general. That is something that I know when I go in a setting that I may feel anxiety. So I talk myself up before I'll walk in. If you've ever seen me walking across the street to an event, I am in my head and I'm saying out loud, like, hey, this is going to be really good. Like, people are going to love you. You're going to meet so many cool people tonight and you're just going to be like the most magnetic version of yourself. So like, I'm really good at self-talk game. and switching the frequency. And a lot of times on the drive there, I'll also listen into a binaural beat, or a frequency that helps support any, like, getting rid of any fears or negative energy. So I prep the hell out of myself and out of my life, because I know myself well enough to know that, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I am going to get a little nervous when I go into a social setting, and that's not bad, and that's not an identity thing. That's just something I know about myself to be true. So here's how I'm going to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there's things all the time. My oldest daughter is going off to college next year. And so it's like, what is that going to be like? Is she going to be far away? So there's worries that come up with that. And it's just like, hey, she's going to end up exactly where she's meant to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have more time to do the things that are exciting and that I enjoy and that are interesting to me when that happens. So there's shadow and light to everything. And if you can find the light or turn the light on by your own means, then it makes things a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Completely. I like that a lot. I relate to that so much with the self-talk and doing all of that before I do that before I go on a date, all of the things. I'm like, you're going to just be the sexiest version of yourself. It's so great.
Well, you have to. Like, you have to, because at the end of the day, like, nobody's gonna hold your hand and do any of this for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
It's like facing yourself, like you said, like knowing yourself enough to know that like those things make you nervous, and being able to just like admit that to yourself without judgment, like you were talking about earlier, so that you can do something about it. Because I think a lot of the time what we do is we don't admit it to ourselves, and then we think, it's like we are so resistant. We're so like, if I don't look at it, then it won't be a truth. I'll just go in there and I won't be socially awkward and it'll be fine. And then you go in there and the same exact thing happens like it does every time. You go home, you beat yourself up. So I like that process a lot. I think that's really good advice.
Well, and you have to, like, again, you have to work with yourself, not against yourself. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the big key, right? Is that a lot of times we're like yelling at ourselves when we need to be like, hey, I have seen this before, and here's how we're going to handle it this time. And that's it. Like, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be this harsh, like, talk down. Like, we never need to talk down to ourselves. Like, we just need to, like, partner with ourselves and be like, most, I would assume most people wouldn't talk to their kids like that, right? We're in a new age, we're in a new era. Like, I would never yell at my kid who was scared to go to school to just suck it up and go to school. Like, I would be like, hey, like today, my kids went back to school today, and she messaged me. She's like, I don't really want to be here today. And I'm like, well, like, you have to. So I want you to report back to me with 10 things that are really great about today.
Mm-hmm.
And so now all day she's going to be
She'll be
looking for
looking
things
for the things.
and looking for things that are
Smart.
great. Right? So, like, your experience is 100% what you make of it. How people experience you is what you carry on the inside, and how you experience yourself is maybe the most important and valuable thing that you'll ever do. So it's really important that you take the time and energy to do the work we're talking about, and to, again, not take all the suggestions, but just take one thing that sparks your curiosity, one thing that you're pulled towards or find interesting, or feel like, I wonder what my life would be like if I incorporated that. That's
Mm-hmm.
all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
again, it doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy, and we can take it one thing at a time, and we'll feel more successful when we do.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so to wrap us up, I like to play a game with my guests called Kinda Toxic, Kinda Well. Kind of the same vibe, bringing humanity to my guests, but because you guys are always so healed, it really, you give very good answers. And so however you feel called to answer these questions, whether it's a genuine truth of something you feel like a little bit toxic about, or you have genuinely good advice for it, like whatever, again, whatever you feel called to do. If you're down to play, I have 8 more questions for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so what or who are you jealous of right now?
Oh, Taylor Swift. 100%.
Good
I
one.
was watching the docu-series. Like, I was like, she manages her energy so well and presents with so much kindness that I really want to embody that in 2026. I've just always, like, I feel like I'm kind, but always just having that energy leak out of me of kindness.
I love that answer. What's a moment recently where you caught yourself ignoring your own needs or choosing yourself instead? So either one, whether you ignored them or you noticed that and chose yourself.
I recently had 5 weeks of company.
Oh my
And that's
God.
exactly what it sounds, right? Is we had just family in town for a series of 5 weeks, and by the fourth week, I was like, I need my fucking space back.
Yeah.
And I ended up not working from my office. I canceled all my appointments and I went to a coffee shop and I just sat and like vegged out for probably 3 hours. And but it took me to like getting to the point where I was finding myself being a little bit irritable to be like, okay, what do you need? You need to get the fuck out of the house. So yeah, that was a huge one.
What do you find yourself overthinking about these days?
What it's going to be like when my daughter goes to college or both of my kids go to college. I've been a parent since I was an adult. I had my daughter at 20, so I don't know what that version of me looks like yet. I know I'm designing her and exploring her, but there is anxiety about what having that amount of time looks like for me. So I'm getting curious about that.
Sure. What is a should, like an expectation that you've put on yourself that you've let go of, or one that you know you still need to?
Hmm. I should make dinner every night. That was one I'm working on letting go of. I used to make dinner even if I was going to dinner. I would make dinner for everybody still. So I would make a dinner that I wouldn't eat just because I felt like I needed to. So I didn't the other day. I had a late lunch and I was like, you know what? Spend for yourself night. And my husband ended up swooping in and making dinner. I was like, okay, this is fine.
Love that.
Still like standing over his shoulder, making sure everything was seasoned properly. We'll work on that.
But we're getting better. Small
We're
step.
getting there.
What's something that makes you quick to get annoyed or angry?
Hmm. I I don't actually feel very annoyed or angry anymore. I feel like most things, even when they're like they should be annoying, they don't really bother me. So nothing's coming to mind right now. I'm pretty chill.
I see.
I'm
I
pretty
love
chill.
that because I think it paints the picture that it's possible. That you have that as an
Yeah.
answer.
Well, I
Totally
used to be a very like quick to like be irritable or whatever. I think like yeah, on a daily basis, nothing really. I'm
cool.
pretty zen.
What do you
Yeah.
credit that to?
I mean, I've been doing inner work for 20 years. So I think like that, like just nothing really needs a reaction. And if it's something that's come up, I don't, I'm going to give you a really wild example. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Um, I had to cancel on my clients Friday. I had a friend call me from jail.
Okay.
Uh, she was arrested because something happened with her auto insurance and she was paying, but it wasn't like it wasn't connected properly. So it looked like she didn't have a license.
Okay.
So she's a travel nurse, so it was 2 hours away. So she was like, I don't have anybody else who could come get me. Is there any way you could come get me? So I canceled all my clients to go bail my friend out of jail, which I've never bailed anybody out of jail in my entire life. Like this is, and she's just like the nicest. Like she's a nurse. She's the nicest. But so it was like this crazy thing, and I was like, okay, so I was gonna plan a day with my girls after work, and we were gonna go to the mall, and so like I could have been really annoyed about that, but I got there, and they took her car to impound, and so I got there. It's 2 hours away. We got her car out of impound, and they needed $319 in cash, which is a really specific amount. I never carry cash on me, right?
Who does?
But for some reason, I had cash on me. And then my daughter came with me so she could drive the other car, and she had cash on her. And together we had exactly $319
Okay.
down to
That's
the dot.
that's
Right.
bizarre.
So I'm just sitting there like, I don't know why this happened, but I know A, my friend would be there for me if I ever needed it. And B, there's some reason we came and there's some reason we had 319, and I don't have to understand why this disrupted my whole day and my whole plans, but like I feel like I was supposed to be there.
I love that. That's such a good example. Yeah, that is crazy. I love that. Okay, what's a toxic thought you still catch yourself believing?
Hmm. I think that as somebody who's ran a business for a long time and has been doing this for a long time, that there's always a thought that you should be further.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's always
Mm-hmm.
like a comparison, especially in like the online entrepreneur world. Like there's a lot that people are like sharing or boasting about. And so I have to constantly remind myself like I'm right on time, like I'm right on the right path. Like I do things in my own way in my own time. So I think that there's no matter what you're doing, that there's always going to be those beliefs that come up that you should be somewhere you're not.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
What's a wellness rule or trend you don't buy into?
Waking up at the crack of dawn. For me, like sleep is priority, and I get a good night's sleep. I go to bed early, and I usually wake up before my alarm, but like I'm not waking up at 5 a.m. Anytime I've tried to, it makes me feel so sick, and then I spend the day feeling gross. So
Mm-hmm.
not
I love that. If you
not
could
for me.
leave my Wellish friends with one piece of advice on becoming more well than toxic, what advice would you give them?
Hmm. Like you are so incredibly powerful. And when you see that, when you learn about it, when you remember it, it will change your life. And I hope you do. And I'm here to help if you need it.
Well, that's my next question. How can people find you? Like, how can they find your work, your book, your podcast, all of the things?
Yeah. Podcast is everywhere you listen to podcasts, so Apple, Spotify, and then my books are on my website, but they're also on Amazon, on Barnes and Nobles, Target, I believe. So they're a little bit of everywhere. And if you send me a message on NicholeEaton.xo, that's TikTok and Instagram, I always respond. So it might take me a few days, but I always respond. But yeah, that's probably the best way to reach me. And then in Instagram, I have all my links to work with me, to join the Comeback Club, and all of that.
Perfect. I'll put them all in the episode description as well. I'll grab them off your Instagram and link them down below so you can access them. Perfect.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this conversation a ton. You're very insightful and incredible. So I really appreciate it. It's very in alignment with Wellish.
Thank you. This was amazing. You're a really fantastic host. This was great.